Hi friends, Liquidy here for another episode of Travel Gluten-Free Podcast. Today I have Jamie from Celiac Travel Pack and we talk about how to be prepared when you're going to a stadium, what food to bring, what you can and cannot bring into stadiums. So Jamie's got the 411 for us today on if you are a sports fan and you're gluten-free, what you need to do when you're going to stadiums. So tune in, make sure you follow this podcast. And definitely leave a review. All right, here we are. Season 9, Episode 20. Enjoy.
Welcome to the Travel Gluten-Free Podcast, where you can listen in on how to lead a gluten-free lifestyle with more fun and ease. Travel gluten-free is like having a best friend by your side to give you the most up-to-date gluten-free traveler information. Let Travel Gluten-Free be your number one source for tips, tricks, and advice you can use to safely navigate your next gluten-free travel adventure. Enjoy food, enjoy travel, and enjoy life. And now, here's your show host, Illiquity.
Hey friends, Liquidy here for another episode of the Travel Gluten-Free Podcast. I am at my home in Oregon, my farmhouse in Oregon, which is why you see all the green trees behind me. I have an awesome guest with me today, and she is going to chat with us about how to eat out safely at stadiums, gluten-free, and concerts, which is something I don't have experience with. So I'm really excited that we were able to get together to provide this for you guys, because if you like concerts or you like to go out to stadiums, to baseball games and stuff, I used to do that as a kid, but I did not have celiac disease as a kid. And so I don't have that experience of eating out gluten-free at stadiums and concerts, except for like 3 local baseball games. And that was pretty much it, where I just ate popcorn. But there's definitely so much more to it. So I'm super excited to have my guest today, Jamie from Celiac Pack. Jamie, welcome to the Travel Gluten-Free Podcast.
Cody, thanks for having me.
So awesome. So let's start off with how you found out you became celiac, because you also, like me, love to travel. You have been to some really cool places like Victoria Falls, Southeast Asia, and Far East Africa with being gluten-free. And so how did you find out you were gluten-free 10 years ago? And what led you into this journey of the Celiac Travel Pack?
Yeah, so I actually was in my first couple of years teaching Spanish in public school, and I was just really sick all the time. And I kind of just thought that that was how first-year teachers felt, because I had heard that first-year teachers were always really sick. My best friend was actually in medical school. She was in her second year of medical school and came down, and I was telling her just how tired I was, how I couldn't get out of bed. My hair's falling out. My teeth are changing colors. Like, I've lost all kinds of weight. This is really weird. And she was the one that said, like, well, this is not normal. And I had been going to doctors, and they actually were heading more towards like the type 2 diabetes route. And she is the best friend ever. And she read a medical journal, like was reading a medical study, and called me and said, I think this sounds like you. I think you should give it a try and you should ask about this. And that is how I found out, after being sick for a couple of years, that I was actually celiac. After talking to her, I went to my doctors and requested the test, and then here we are.
Wow, you are so fortunate you had a friend to do that, because I have had people on my show, they've literally gone from doctor to doctor for like 10 years before they find out, because it's so funny, like there's so many different symptoms, but it's so easy to give a blood test for celiac disease. I don't know why doctors just don't do that like up front if you have any type of intestinal issues whatsoever. Kind of crazy.
Years of pain.
Right? Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Okay. When you decide to go out and you go to stadiums and or concerts, like, first of all, I'm assuming you're bringing family, like with kids.
I actually don't have kids. Been to stadiums with kids.
There's always lots of kids at stadiums. You never have a lack of children at stadiums, that's for sure. So when you go, what kind of concerts and sports venues or sports games do you typically attend? And what is a typical like concert or venue day look like for you when you're traveling with celiac disease?
I think it kind of depends event to event. So I've done, for like shorter events, I live in Lexington, Kentucky. College basketball is a thing here. So if you're going to like a college basketball game, they aren't usually quite as long. So in that case, I love to always have a snack. So like a single snack or something with me, it's not as big a deal. I would say same Disney on Ice. I wasn't that worried about. It was pretty short. But for like a music festival, or like I just did the Eras tour in Nashville, because I was lucky enough to get tickets. And that was like a 5-hour long concert endeavor, so that required a little bit more. So it's a lot of planning the eating before and really researching what you can bring in, and then having snacks and things prepared for after. So it's kind of thinking about it in 3 phases. So each day is a little different. It kind of depends on how long I'm going to be there.
And then when you're looking for like restaurants to eat at and stuff, do you also use the Find Me Gluten-Free app?
Oh my gosh, I live by the Find Me Gluten-Free app. Yeah.
Me too. I love that app. It's like no matter where I go. And it's the coolest thing about using that app, besides like finding gluten-free food, is a lot of the restaurants on there just make really good food if they're making gluten-free food. Generally, I'm finding like it's rare that we actually go to a restaurant that's on that app that doesn't have really good food.
Yeah, if it gets that's what we've learned. If it gets really good reviews on Find Me Gluten-Free, then the food is just really good. Some of my favorite places.
And I love that they have that save the collections thing now. So if you're going somewhere, or if you are like you live somewhere, you can just keep putting restaurants into that collection, and then you can make it public and share it with people, or you can make it private. So I love that feature of it as well. What kind of planning do you generally do, like before sporting event? Like besides, looking for places to eat, maybe before, maybe packing some snacks, what other like things do you need to know about the stadium in particular?
So I try to know generally what's the parking situation going to be like, because there's a big difference between I'm going to like roll right out of there and go home versus it's going to take me 30 minutes to walk to my car and then getting out of the city in traffic. So trying to kind of gauge about how long that's going to take to get a full picture of what the day is going to look like. And I would say after as well, like how late is this going to be? I think at least with my celiac, like my body has a very specific equilibrium that we need to stay in. So it's like, how much sleep am I going to get? And like, do I need to bring a liquid IV with me so that I can, or like a Gatorade or something so that I can replenish and feel a little bit better? Like, so kind of looking at what the whole big picture is going to be. A lot of my research centers around like, what is the food situation going to be like? Is there a good restaurant nearby, or do I need to pack snacks with me? Or is this event like smack and like right in the middle of a meal time, or can we kind of offset it? And that kind of thing is how I do a lot of my planning before and after.
Yeah. Another thing that I always look at too is, especially when I'm traveling like later in the night, is like what places are actually open, right? Because you can go and find me gluten-free, but I also double check on the website and call the place, because ever since the pandemic, people have changed their hours, and they're still changing hours and shortening times because of like lack of staff. And so you have to make sure that, hey, if it's a restaurant there, if you're getting out late, is that restaurant going to be open and or serving food at that time? Because you might get out at 9, but you might not be able to get there till 9:30, and they close the kitchen at 9:15. And so those are all things you definitely need to consider when you're eating out late at night, for sure.
I would say too, like make a reservation. Like I think when I went to the air store, I knew it was going to be absolute madness. So I think I made a reservation at there was one place that I knew I was confident eating at, like 60 Vines in Nashville. It was wonderful. But I think I made the reservation like 2 months out or 6 weeks out or something. And I just guessed about what time we wanted to go, because there were only 1 or 2 options. So you have to plan. You can't just decide like a week before, because you may not be able to get the reservation and may not be able to get in. And that would be a real bummer.
Yeah, that's actually a really great idea, because that happened to me, but on the flip. So we had made a reservation for this like Brazilian restaurant in Salt Lake when I used to live in Utah. And we went there and it was super packed. And we're like, why is it so packed? And then we came to find out like there was a basketball game across the street. Yeah. And oh my gosh, those restaurants fill up fast, and you will either have to wait for like 2 hours or not be able to get in at all if you don't have a reservation. So that's a really great point to make if you're going to a concert. Plan ahead of time as much as you can to make that reservation ahead of time for that specific restaurant. And another thing too that I found is that, like, if I go on Open Table or I go on the reservation system and there's nothing available, you can still call the restaurant. A lot of times they still have open spaces, but they're just filled on Open Table because they only put so many tables on Open Table in the reservation systems. So even if the reservation system says it's full, still call the restaurant ahead of time to find out if there's space available.
If you throw out the celiac card, sometimes they'll let you in even if they have to really finagle it. I've had that happen 1 or 2 times in other places where it was like they saw the look of devastation on my face and they knew how hard it was going to be for me to eat somewhere else. So they snuck us in really, really quickly in and out so that I could actually eat something.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that happened to me one time when I first moved to Oregon. It's a place called Eats and Treats, and they're dedicated gluten-free. And they were like, oh, we're all booked up. And I'm like, I haven't eaten all day, and I'm celiac. I'm like, can you just like sit me outside somewhere in a corner?
I will eat in 15 minutes. Please.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
need
they just had me outside, yeah, which was fine, like, I didn't care, but yeah, that was really awesome. So, what are some things, Jamie, that you can't let's do the can't ones, can't bring into a stadium no matter what, like, even if you have, like, you're under the ADA law, which we're gonna talk about after the break?
You have to follow the clear bag policy. So even if you're celiac, even if no matter what, you have to bring in that clear bag. So you can't roll in with like a cooler, bring in all your stuff with you. It has to fit in that clear bag. The other thing I've heard and seen is that you can't bring in homemade things. Like they need to be packaged. And I've heard that that's because of health code. I don't know how true that is or how that is, but that's the thing where I've seen that like if you try to bring in like homemade sandwiches or homemade snacks, which we all like love to do when we go places, that will be the thing that they can ding you on. So I would say prepackaged snacks and prepackaged things, as much as that's kind of frustrating, is the way to go. And you can typically with stadiums bring in like one bottle of water, but no other drinks. So if you wanted anything other than water or soda or something, you would need to bring like a drink packet.
Well, I know one of the things I've done before is like I've taken like a bag of chips and emptied the chips out and like put a sandwich in and then just tape the bag on the
Yeah,
top.
you can do something
It's
like that.
prepackaged.
Not everybody checks things super closely, so it just kind of depends. But I'm very much a rule follower, and I can't talk myself out of anything. So I stick to my prepackaged snacks because I know that I'm going to be like red-faced and nervous if anything ever.
I'm not so much of a rule follower. What I would do is if I brought my sandwich and it wasn't like prepackaged and they're like, well, you can't bring this in. And I'm like, I have food allergies. Can you guarantee me that you can feed me food and I don't have to use my EpiPen? And they're going to say no. And I'm going to say then I.
Yep. And that's the thing.
And of course,
most people don't want to get into that battle. So if you have any reason, then
for sure.
I just let you kind of go in. The thing that I've heard the most and seen the most is where they can stop you.
And I'm sure each stadium is a little bit different. So you can always call the stadium and see like what rules they have as far as like bringing in food. So what are the things that you typically bring in? You said like snacks and water, and you can bring in like a water bottle.
Yeah, so I try to bring a water bottle because I have to drink a lot. And most stadiums have like the water refill stations now. So if you can get your water bottle in, you can usually just refill it. I love any of those like hydration packs just because I feel like anytime I'm going to like a show, it's really warm outside or really feel like I get dehydrated easier in those situations. So I try to bring that. I bring a lot of different snacks. I try to have way more than I could possibly need, but I try to bring things that I know are going to sound good no matter what. So I save my favorite snacks for that, but I try to always bring a little bit of sugar and like a little bit of protein. Like I don't want to eat just candy bars all day or anything like that. Like I try to bring trail mix, anything like that so that I can make it the whole way. My assumption is always when I'm planning that like the restaurant I'm planning to go to before doesn't have any food for me and there's nowhere I can eat after. So I have to just make it on whatever I bring in my little bag, which is completely unrealistic, but
yeah. And another thing I always tell people is like, if you're going somewhere, like don't bring anything with chocolate or chocolate coating on it or any kind of coating like yogurt, because that just makes a huge mess. Like it's everywhere. It's super sticky. You end up just having to throw everything out. Yeah. So always avoid bringing stuff with like coating. Yeah. Easy foods are good. Just avoid the coating stuff. And the other thing, well, this is kind of more on airplane travel that I realized in the past year is that when you're on an airplane, if you bring a peanut snack and someone has a peanut allergy or a nut snack, you can't eat it. So I always bring like, if I bring a nut snack, I always bring something that does not have nuts in it. And then when I bring crackers, I typically bring like grain-free crackers because they hold together much better than rice crackers, which tend to like fall apart, especially if you throw them in a backpack. Yeah. So if I'm going like traveling, I always bring like, I call them sturdy crackers so that they don't fall apart.
Easy.
Yeah, bring stuff that does not smush easily is a really awesome recommendation. All right, my friends, we're going to take a quick break right here. But when we come back, Jamie and I are going to talk about how to navigate the system and ADA rules on bringing food in when you have a disability. Hey, gluten-free friends, it's Liquidy. We know that traveling gluten-free can be hard, but you know what? It doesn't have to be impossible. You can still travel and be independent, have fun, and be in control of your life. Travel the way you want to, even with celiac disease. I know because I travel extensively several months out of the year with celiac disease. If you want to get started on learning more about how to travel gluten-free, grab my free ebook, 10 Tips for Traveling Gluten-Free. In my ebook, you're going to find the basics of traveling gluten-free, from the questions you need to ask when dining out to air travel and cruise travel advice. You're going to find my top tips that I've learned from my expertise. Get your free ebook today by visiting my newly revamped website, www.travelglutenfreepodcast.com. Go to the bottom of the welcome page where you're going to see the beautiful Caribbean boat picture. Click there and sign up today. Receive your free ebook, which is going to be dropped directly into your inbox. Remember, go to www.travelglutenfreepodcast.com. Go to the bottom of the welcome page and get your free ebook and find out my top tips for traveling safely when you're gluten-free. All right, we're back with the second half of the episode today. I'm here with Jamie from Celiac Travel Pack on Instagram, and we are talking about how to eat gluten-free at stadiums and at concerts. And so, Jamie, how do you navigate the system? Like, what's a really good way to navigate the system if you're going to a stadium or a concert? We talked about like calling a stadium and what are their specific rules of food and stuff like that. But what are some other processes that you use to navigate this system when you're going to a stadium or a concert?
Yeah, so this is going to sound very ridiculous. So I actually never call, I don't call, I can't find a number to call a stadium anymore. If you DM them on Instagram or like tweet them, that's when you get your best responses, which sounds crazy, but like most of my information has come from Instagram DMs. So I'm just like, hey, I have celiac. I'm coming to this event. I noticed that I didn't see any gluten-free food listed in your concession stands. Is that incorrect? Can you tell me where I can find things, or can you tell me how I can bring snacks in so that I can make it through the whole event and be able to eat? And they typically have given me a very quick, like super easy response with how to navigate their specific stadium. I think with big summer events, a lot of them are posting it already too. Like they know they're getting the questions, so they're just sending, here's how you do it. But check social media. Most of the time, the websites are really generic with this, like, except for medically necessary items or something on their requirements list, which is pretty vague. The Instagram DM is the way to go.
For the medically necessary stuff, I know we're going to jump into the ADA. One of the things when I travel on airplanes is I started traveling with a separate like medical bag with like my EpiPen, my Benadryl, some of the other things that I need like on vacation, but I would probably still even bring it in a stadium just because it's a separate bag. It's just medical. What are the ADA regulations when they apply to like going to a concert or a stadium?
So it's all kind of loose. Basically, it's that they don't necessarily have to provide you with gluten-free food, but they have to allow you to bring things in with you. So stadium to stadium, how they do it is a little different. When I've been, it's been that whatever I bring has to still fit in that like 12 by 12 gallon size Ziploc bag, basically, that you're going to bring in with you, which hasn't ever been a problem. You just Jengas and then like Tetris things in there so you can bring as much as you need to. I found a fanny pack on Amazon that's a clear fanny pack that is clutch. It's been great. That's what I typically do. I think it has to still fit in the bag, but I haven't had a problem even like bringing enough food for 7 hours.
Yeah. And I always tend to bring like way too much food too. Like I'm like the last plane trip I did, I'm bringing half the amount of food so I don't have to carry this back and forth when I'm going to and from my destination.
So bad. Anytime I'm traveling or doing anything, it's like I have enough food to get me through what I'm doing like twice, but I just get so nervous about it because it's like, what if I get stuck? Like, what if there's a rain delay? What if there's traffic? There's just nothing worse than being hungry and feeling like you don't have any options. So
yeah, especially at an airport. Yeah.
Airports and stadiums when you're at their mercy. Like, no, thank you. I'll just bring my food.
Right. Yeah. Like a stadium is very similar because like if you leave, you have to, take your ticket, like wait in line again, come back in, like through security, like there's that whole security thing. I mean, it's not as bad as like international security in an airport, but it's still like your time coming back and going in. And then of course that time you take going out and coming back in is the time where they're going to make like the amazing play of the year. And you're going to miss it. Good advice. I like that. So anything else you want to add as far as like your experience or advice you want to give people, especially if they are new to celiac disease or new to being gluten-free and they really want to go to, that baseball game or they want to go to that concert?
I would say just ask all of the questions. Like, don't be afraid to send the DMs or make the phone calls. Like, ask the questions, get yourself the information. And as uncomfortable as that can be sometimes, know what your options are. And like, I had a screenshot of the DM on my phone when I was going into stadiums because it's just like, just in case anybody says anything to me, it's like, no, here is from your official account where they said that I can do this. Here we are. I've also seen where people sometimes have just a note from their doctor saying they should be allowed to carry in gluten-free food. With ADA, they're not technically supposed to be able to ask you for a doctor's note, but sometimes people are contrarian. So if you have one, that's okay. And I think My biggest thing is I always try to like over plan. So make sure I've got food in the car and I eat well beforehand, like setting myself up so that if any one part of the plan of the day goes wrong, then the whole day isn't lost. So one
Yeah.
thing can go awry and you still have a great time.
I think that's really great. And I also do that when I travel too. I always have like a backup plan or whatever. Yeah. So that, yeah, if you miss that one thing, it's like, okay, the day isn't going to go as well as you planned, but you're still going to have fun and you're still going to have a good time at
Yeah.
whatever you're doing. Yeah. I think those are awesome. Really great advice, especially the screenshot, because when you get to the stadium, even though there's, Wi-Fi and internet there, there's going to be so many people using it. You may not be able to get on. So having that screenshot is invaluable. I screenshot so many things when I travel. That's a really good idea. Jamie, at the end of every episode, I always ask people the travel questions and then gluten-free food questions. So my first question is what is a city, region, or place you would highly recommend to a gluten-free traveler?
I'm going to go with a city that I think is a sleeper in the gluten-free community, and that is Budapest, Hungary. If you have not
Oh,
been to Budapest,
interesting.
I stayed for 5 days and ate at dedicated gluten-free restaurants pretty much the whole time. Yeah, I had the best hamburger bun I've ever had in my life at a restaurant. Like, it's a sleeper. Nope, I don't understand. Like, Italy is amazing, but in Budapest, you can get like Italian food and Hungarian food and burgers and like all of the different things. So I loved it just because there was so much variety. Yeah, Budapest, Hungary.
Oh my gosh. Okay, wait a minute. So is Hungarian food, I thought Hungarian food had a lot of like wheat and stuff in it generally,
Yeah.
like as an
There's a
ethnicity.
dedicated gluten-free Hungarian place. I had a schnitzel that was like the size of my plate at a dedicated gluten-free place. Yeah, and dedicated gluten-free like apple strudels. I had a burger with like queso and tortilla chips and all of the things on it. We ate at one restaurant like 4 times because it was amazing. Pizza that was as good as the pizza you can get in Italy.
Okay, done. Budapest is now on my hit list. Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Hungary. I mean, it's hiding out there. Nobody knows about it, but
Clearly, I've never
later.
heard of Budapest. I have had over like 100 people on my podcast, so that's amazing. Okay,
It's
it
a
is
great one.
totally now on my list. All right, Budapest, Hungary. All right,
Mhm.
so my next question is what is the next trip you are taking or thinking about taking?
So the very next trip I'm taking is I am going to Banff and Jasper National Parks in Canada in August. It's been on the list for a long time, so we're going to go do some hiking, and I'm really excited.
Oh, awesome. I have not been to those two places, but I have heard many amazing stories about those two places. So I think you're going to have a blast, and I am very park envious right now. Some gluten-free food questions. What is the food you miss most and why?
This is going to be really ridiculous, but I spent a lot of times in ports, and it's the Auntie Anne's pretzel. I don't know what it is about it, but I smell it, and it is like, I tell my husband every time we walk by them that if I could have one gluten-free thing one day and not like one thing that has gluten and not get sick, that it would be an Auntie Anne's pretzel.
Oh my God, this is so funny that you said that because one of my jobs in high school was I worked at an Auntie Anne's pretzel. And this was like before, I guess I only had a celiac for like 8-9 years, like almost pretty close to the time you've been. And so, yeah, I would literally bring home like a whole bag of them every night and then like throw them in the freezer. And then my dad would eat them. I love those pretzels. And I can tell you, they dip all their pretzels in butter. And so it's just like, they're really good.
That's my thing every time I smell one.
I could totally go with you on that one. Okay. So what is the best gluten-free food you've recently eaten? It can be from a restaurant. It can be something you made at home. It can be something you bought at the store.
I live for a gluten-free bakery, so I've tried a lot of them. I don't know if it's the most recent, but a cinnamon raisin bagel from Modern Bread and Bagel is just like, I don't know, there's something about it that's so special. I love it. I would say I also had a really good maple donut at New Cascadia in Portland.
Yes.
That thing is life-changing.
Yeah. News Cascadia also has super amazing them on. I had an episode last season on with New Cascadia. They have the most amazing like poppy seed bagels and they're so good. But yeah, I've heard, so Matt from Gluten-Free Street Gang was on my show a couple seasons ago and he said the first time he went into Modern Bread and Bagel, he got a bagel and he took a couple bites and he walked back in and bought like a dozen.
Oh yeah, I went once, and then I went with a friend who isn't gluten-free, but she laughed at me because I came home with 6 bagels in my backpack. So I was like, no, these have to come home with me. These are the best things I've ever eaten.
Yeah, that's totally me. Like I'm always bringing home food from like pretty much every trip. And it's really
Yeah.
funny because I actually the last couple times I was in New York, I did not have celiac disease, but everybody's been raving about modern bread and bagel. And so I was actually in JFK airport and I Google mapped it. I'm like modern bread and bagel. And it was like an hour away. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh man, like I almost was this close to almost going through international security to come out to get the bagels.
Let me tell you, it's something else. It is worth it. I definitely am known to like travel with a Ziploc, a gallon size Ziploc, and like Tupperware for my gluten-free baked goods when I go places because
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The other thing you can do too, I don't know if you've tried this, but I get one of those foldable like duffel bags, put it in my suitcase, and then if I find a lot of food and want to bring it back, I just like unopen it up and like put all the food in there and then just like throw it and like check it.
that's what my Fjall Raven. I have a Kanken backpack that every time there's a bakery nearby, it comes back full of things. I limit
Nice.
myself to the backpack, otherwise I would go crazy.
Right? Yeah. I love doing that. That's so much fun. Okay. So I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. If a magic genie could grant a wish for you to eat 3 regular food items on your birthday, which 3 food items would you choose, Jamie?
3 of them. Well, an Auntie Anne's pretzel would have to happen
We got
because
one.
I need that in my life. Honestly, I think it's like, is there an option for one of them to be just like to let me go to like a potluck dinner where other people are there and just interact like a normal human? 'Cause it's not really like a food. I just miss the experience of being able to just like show up somewhere and eat is the thing that I miss.
Okay, yeah. Since it's my podcast, we can totally put that as number two.
Okay. That's my other one. I would say if anything else, just like a regular like donut would be great too. So, I
That's
mean,
so funny. I was thinking about that 3 days ago. I actually told my husband that we were driving somewhere, and I'm like, it would be really nice to just stop at this bagel or donut place and go in and eat a bagel or
yeah.
a donut. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not even a specific food. I just miss the like the convenience of being able to just show up somewhere and not have to like ask what everything's gonna be and pack my own food and all of that. I don't know.
No, I am totally with you. I'm actually going to do a future episode on that where it's just like, all of the different, like the things that you have to deal with emotionally with celiac disease and we're going out to food and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Which is, yeah,
because that's
can be
real.
very frustrating. Yes, it is totally real.
That's
Yes,
the
the
real.
frustration is real. For sure. So, Jamie, this has been so awesome chatting with you. I love this conversation. I know that people that are listening to this are getting a lot of really great information. Where can people find you? I know they can find you on Instagram. So, if you're watching the video, you see the banner on the bottom, Instagram at Celiac Travel Pack. Where else can people find you online?
Yeah, I'm trying to be better about Instagram. I was a high school counselor for 10 years, so me and social media, we struggle. And then celiactravelpack.com is my website, and that's where I blog. I try to put up as much as I can about places that we've been. There's a whole lot up there about Budapest and all the places that I ate when I was there and why I loved it so much. The website is the best place to catch me.
Awesome. Yeah, I did read your article in Budapest. I really enjoyed it. That was a really good one. I like that a lot. That was awesome. Well, Jamie, thanks so much for coming on the show today. I really enjoyed having you on here. And I know people who are listening got some really great information. Those sports fans are like probably ready to gear up and go out there now and watch their favorite game.
Do it.
Travel Gluten-Free Podcast is a production of Travel Gluten-Free LLC. Looking for a great way to connect with over 2,000 consumers per month? Contact Aliquity for information on sponsorship levels to boost your business. Subscribe today so you won't miss a single episode of Travel Gluten-Free. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Pandora, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Travel Gluten-Free Podcast is a production of Travel Gluten-Free LLC. Looking for a great way to connect with over 2,000 consumers per month? Contact Aliquity for information on sponsorship levels to boost your business. Subscribe today so you won't miss a single episode of Travel Gluten-Free. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Pandora, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.